All right,
Follow
Droki
that,
gets
should we just
banned.
ready up? Just Sanity's mind. Okay.
All right,
Sorry. He
Hmm.
bans Advent.
Yurga goes Eldar, and they ban Admech on the other team.
Are they gonna ban sisters? So this will be a normal game. Ish, normal-ish.
Okay. So from what I can see already, is the Russian team highly, they highly value mobility, like we discussed earlier, many times, described, and as they should.
Right, if they can't get Drakari, they went with Eldar as the next pick. So, I
Yep.
mean, the gate
Got it.
function in Gladius is really powerful. I guess where the weakness of gates are, like once you destroy them, you know, there's no more
Yes.
gating around.
Yes.
But like, if they're aggressive, they can kind of secure gates that are pretty close to the other enemy's team. Okay, so Yurga bans Tau.
Joey,
Yes.
Joey, real quick, you know, this guy wants to know how much you want to sell a house for. He's like texting.
Who?
Anyway, one of my clients. Read my text message and just tell me what number you like.
Okay, I'm casting a game right now.
Okay, that's awesome. But read my text message. Alright, I'm gonna give him whatever number. Then don't tell me anything.
All right, bye.
Hold on a second. Something with Des. I think some order. Did some order get messed up here?
I was on a call with my wife. Joshy here.
Because Sisters team, they chose Sisters of Battle, but they didn't make a second ban. Or do we have to wait for them?
So I have to look up my graph again. I think they're doing it correctly. So let's see. They picked Elder, we ban Emek. I pick SB, ban Tau. I take Astra. Yeah, so they ban. Okay, yeah, and then Team B gets the last pick, I think.
I thought it was okay. That's fine. Okay.
Well, yeah, what we've been doing it like when we were doing it, we were just doing it like the more simplified version where it's just
Both of you, one team bans and then picks, and then the other team bans and then picks, and it keeps switching.
yeah, that's what we were doing. But then in my tournament video, I actually tweaked it more to Jonathan's method, which is there's a chart.
Okay. Well, as long as you know the chart and
Yeah.
being done correctly, that's all that matters. Perfect. Oh, look at that chaos. Okay.
So here we go. You guys all have to ready up. And medium map 2. Okay, perfect. And yeah, Flana, you ready up? And then we're good to go.
Everybody, yeah.
All right, so basically the starting couple turns are pretty important. This is where you're going to look at your surroundings and might consider different sort of builds, meaning I'm going to focus on this technology, or I'm going to go for an early army, or I'm going to go more greed, go into more science, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, the first, I'd say 5 to 10 turns is really what you might see from each team, what their mentality is far as how they want to go about this game. Now, Khazar and Sister lost the marathon game that lasted 100 turns. Now, you might say, why didn't you upload the video? I have pieces of the video. The thing is, I had a blackout with thunderstorms, and it sort of corrupted like half of the game. And it would have been a lot of editing because the game literally went like 6 hours and it's like 100 turns. So for my sanity, I just didn't upload. I didn't want to spend the whole day trying to edit it. But anyways, to give you a recap of the first game, since nobody kind of saw it, basically involved a base being destroyed by Team Khazar, and that was a Dark Elder base. The Dark Elder player went 3 bases, so he was down to 2. During that time, that's when Lemon Russes were able to reinforce Dark Eldar enough, and they pushed back the sieging force of Team Khazar. Additional Bolter came online, and that swung the battle for Astra and Dark Eldar. And then it was back and forth, 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 pretty much for another 90 turns. Eventually, Bane Blades came out, and that kind of just sealed the deal. That's the short version of that Turn Hunter game. Yeah, please don't ask me, oh, please upload it and edit it. I will literally want to shoot myself. Because I will say this, it was an interesting game, but after the base snipe, it was constantly just like Taliban attacks. Like I kill one unit, retreat, then they kill one unit, retreat. It was back and forth, retreating. Most of you people would probably find it boring. But let's see if these are different factions from game 1. We don't have Dark Elder, we have a Good Elder, and we have Astra Militarum and Sisters and Chaos. So this should be interesting. Build wise, we've got a Science from Sisters laid down base, getting a textile. I assume it's going to be a book first. She always goes book first with Sisters a battle. And Khazar is the blue. We're seeing him acquire a tile onto volcanic rock, so maybe we'll get an ore first, maybe? Or is he... Yeah, ore first. It has to be ore first. Let's see
One
what
thing I want to point out in this game already is I love the map placement. Sometimes the map placements can be a little bit bugged. People can get into weird spots depending on the randomization of the map itself. But here, everybody got really good placements, and that makes me really happy because that means that it's going to be all is as good as you could hope it to be. So that's really, really nice off the bat right there.
Yeah, and Khazar got the production shard of Vol, so he'll be quicker building his buildings. He is going for an ore first with Astra Militarum, which isn't like weird. It's just most Astros go book first to get their expansions a little bit quicker and to get to the lemon tanks faster. So we might see maybe a more aggressive build from Khazar, maybe Tremere early with some aggressive push maybe. Sister is doing book first, so we're gonna see pretty much like I said, she's gonna get the book first to get her expansions quickly. We're seeing ore first from Chaos, but that's pretty universal most of the time. And then Aldar, we're seeing ore as well first. Now again, both those factions, that's kind of a standard build with those factions. You want to go ore first. You were going to say something, Felena? And by the way, Felena is joining me. Now, I can't guarantee he'll be here for the entire game because, like I said, the game 1 went 100 turns, so I do not expect him to be here that long. But he is co-hosting with me on this Gladius game, so good to have you here. What do you see?
I was going to say that one of my hobbies is kickboxing, so I would like to think that my stamina is pretty high up there, but only time will tell if it does get up there. Now, one thing I was going to say is that, yeah, the Chaos is opening with the ore first, which looks like he's probably going to be going into a vehicle build, although what is interesting about his start is he does have food tiles available in his start location, so he can go for a hybrid build if he so chooses. He can put his second base on some food positive tiles, so he has a big number of choices here, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say his Faguar vision only kind of shows him that production green grassland, but there is some fungus, I guess, that makes the percentage go up a little bit more. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he could he could go either way with the Chaos build. What were you gonna say about Khazar? I think you were gonna say something about Khazar. Oh,
Yeah,
Khazar.
Kazar also has a really nice area where he has a number of interesting choices to make and a number of builds that are open to him as well. He decided to settle on the tundra, on the volcanic tiles that are going to give him a high ore and production bonuses. But for second and third base, he has some interesting choices to make as well. He can go onto the actual grassland for production and go infantry route. I believe he has some. Does he have any energy tiles available? Yeah, he has a base that can also give him science energy. I mean, he has a very a nicely varied geography around him, which always makes it very interesting to see what is the player going to choose and which build they're going to go. So this is looking very juicy so far. I'm liking what we're getting here, because one thing you definitely don't like to see is just a really bad starting area. But so far, it's looking pretty good on both sides.
One thing I'll just note is I play a lot of Elder, so I kind of understand the main builds. But although the vets tend to do some spicy builds here and there, so the thing about Elder has basically in the Fog of War, he has access to the gate of one view sighting. So the neutral gates are actually exposed to Eldar, meaning they can kind of they can get information. Like if a gate is by special resource, they can kind of they know exactly, oh, if I put my expanding base there, I'm going to get, relay pipe or whatever. So knowing that, Eldar's going barracks after ore, which tells me he's going more for infantry build. You could also do it more into a mixed build, like a mid-game into wave serpents with infantry. That's a possibility, but not many players do that type of build, but there are some that do. I believe where he's going to go with his bases, if I'm looking at the map, you have right as he captures it, you have the relay pipe desert, so that means warlocks, and now he just needs a good food city, which he has right there at 1223. So where my marks are, basically he wants to keep those gates alive though, so hopefully wildlife does not blow them up, but he should be okay because poxwalkers don't do that much damage. So basically I'm predicting lots of warlocks with maybe reapers, fire dragons, and guardians, and possibly he might mix it in with wave serpents. Probably not. That, like I said, that's a more unique build to mix it with wave serpents. The other thing is Chaos could just provide the rhinos, so he wouldn't have to go into like a mixed build.
I'm not gonna play. I need to test the thing. It might give me a bunch of XP.
Yeah, that is a very interesting take, and I like hearing your take on Eldar.
I don't want to
I'm
hear
not.
anything.
I've only played them a little bit. I've only played Eldar a few times, so I'm not super familiar. I know some of their basic builds, so it's nice to hear your take on that. I noticed the Chaos settled his second base along the volcanic as well. He went for the volcanic influence, which is a very nice choice because it helps you build up the influence, and first of all, it opens up
To get the third city quicker.
options, yes, to get your third city quicker, and then possibly add heroes if that's a route you want to go, which I think Chaos generally should, just because their hero lineup is out of you.
Chaos heroes have a lot of stopping power, a lot of utility, and they're just like all of them are really good. So you definitely can't. Like I said, I think I said this in my previous cast where I talked about some players are they like to incorporate heroes in their armies, and then other players are more they don't like heroes. And there's valid points for both groups, but I think definitely Chaos, I feel their heroes are just so good, and they amplify your army potential so much. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see heroes from Chaos. The real question is, are we going to see like a wild card such as Saint Celestine from the sister player? Are we going to see tank commanders from Khazar? The list goes on. So Rangers coming out, that's a very ballsy move. Because let me explain why I think so. Is you're hoping that the enemy team is going to go infantry, And currently we've got, we got an armory from Sister. Now Sister might be doing a mixed build, maybe one armory into barrackses. So then the Rangers they'll be fine. But like if both Khazar and Sister both go just vehicles, there's nothing, the snipers aren't really going to help too much. Another thing too is I don't think they're a little bit slow with killing wildlife as well. So where Guardians are a little more dangerous to clear wildlife, but they do so much damage. So you're killing wildlife a lot quicker. But yeah, this might come back to bite Yurga, because I don't think Rangers are bad, but I think for me I like to back tech to it. As soon as I identify my enemy team's build, it's a cheap tier 1 tech. You can literally research it in one turn later in the game, and you can quickly build a few of them. And for me, I think they're much better in PvP. But again, they're like one of those units where like hunters, whirlwinds, they're a unit I think that you need to be matching them up with the corresponding unit that they're good against. So we'll see
I
what
definitely
happens.
agree. Especially since the Eldar tier 1 is such a contested tier, I think there's so many goodies on that first tier that you kind of want to get. You probably want to get the gates, let's face it, because you don't want to be wasting influence popping up gates all over the place. You're probably gonna get one of the other ones as well. Whether it's I think one of them is vehicles, right? Vehicle building, and then the other one is
One nice little kind of cheeky thing you can do, what I used to do, is if you build just one Ranger, the Ranger has an ability. I'll go to it for the people watching. They have an ability, I think, infiltrate. So infiltrate means prevents the unit from being targeted by Overwatch attacks. Now you might say, "Oh, well, what's the deal? Why is that good?" He can take science gates and then teleport and go onto the science gate, capture the science gate, and if there's like wildlife around, they won't get the Ranger won't get Overwatch because it has that. So he could kind of steal a bunch of science outposts on the enemy side by teleporting the Ranger and then securing it. Here's the thing, it is a roll of the dice, but think of this, right? You're spending 15 influence to teleport and then 15 back, and if you got the free tech to grab the gate, it doesn't cost anything. So you're spending, let's say, 30 influence to do this mission, right? But if you high roll into a blue or a purple item, then you could even, if you're even selling the item, that's 60 influence. So you increase your influence by 30, and you got a science outpost. Maybe they don't take it. If you high roll into a purple, if you sell influence purple item, I think that's 90 or some ridiculous.
16?
No, 15 is for the common, 30 is for the blue. Yeah, 60 is for the. Yeah, but the thing is, if you're going heroes with Elder, again, you might roll into some nice things like Zote Hide, Vest. So, but yeah, I don't think we're gonna see that. But I'm saying that'd be funny if we do see him like teleporting around the map, grabbing science outposts with a infiltrate Ranger. That would be kind of funny to watch.
It's an interesting strategy because I like it can be an investment that may pay off if you grab ones that are in the corners where your enemies are unlikely to go, because most people like to move towards the center of the map, and they don't cap those outposts back, or if the neutrals don't get them back, for example, even though you paid, let's say, 30 to get it, if you have it for more than 15 turns, then it essentially paid itself off, and it basically is pretty much a net, like a net, like it cancels itself out. And if it goes over 15 turns, then it's going to be a bonus. Now, if you happen to find any items, just like you're saying, and they're useful to you, you can keep them. If they're not, you can sell them for half price, giving you some added bonuses as well. So it is a little bit of a risky thing to do, but it'll be interesting to see whether he pulls the trigger on that strategy. It'll be interesting to see what he does with these Rangers. And I do agree with you that Rangers, while I do like them, they're definitely underwhelming when it comes to clearing the early wildlife, which is kind of why I would personally prefer Guardians, but that's just me.
Because my motto is this: when when you're clearing wildlife, the faster the better, right? Because the faster you kill stuff, the quicker you grab the outpost, the quicker you profit,
100%.
and the more you can move on to the next outpost. And it's kind of like a leapfrog type
snowball.
thing. But Rangers
a
are kind of
leapfrog,
like they want to set
snowball.
up, then they want to shoot, then stay in the same turn, shoot again. So yeah, I think Guardians are just I think are they cheaper? No, same price. Let's see. No, they are. Their Guardians are cheaper and they're faster to produce. And I just feel like if it's wildlife clearing, I think Guardians just do a better job, to be honest. But there's that one strategy I talked about, like teleporting the Rangers to grab all the science outposts on the map. And then, you can always sell those items when you get your Achurok or your Spirit Seer or whatever. If you don't like those items. And then you maybe profit, who knows. So, Sister she went book, armory, into expansion building, into ore. So we don't know yet what her build is officially going to be, but we'll continue to watch. And she might lose a battle sister here because the robot, the cultist. It depends if the robot. There's another cultist friend though. So yeah, we'll have to stay tuned to see if she loses. Okay, is she gonna lose? And boom, she lost one. So.
Ooh.
So let me just say this, okay? It can happen. I've lost lots of units playing, but in general, the very best players that play this game, they usually never lose units to wildlife. Usually, it's very low, but it does happen. Now, in a tournament game, when the skill level's quite high and everything is like on the wire, and when you have those big first battles, every unit matters, right? So. It could handicap them a little bit. Does it mean they lose a game? No, of course not. They're not going to, you lose one unit and you lost the game. But it does affect some factions more than others. You got to remember, when you lose a starting unit, that's one less unit to help you secure and grab special resources. The more special resources you get, the better your economy will be. The more you can maybe go for particular builds that you're trying to do. Where were you going to say, Falana?
I think losing a starting unit is a big deal because I'm very much for what you were saying, especially with a faction like Sisters, Space Marines, Necrons, factions that are very strong, that have very strong starting units, that are very good at clearing the map and pushing the neutrals. Losing a starting unit can be a deal breaker, and here's why. If that unit gets away from you with 1 HP, 2 HP, whatever, and you know that extra unit you could have closed out that kill, it's going to come back to bite you because that neutral is going to run away. It's going to pull more neutrals, and then later you're going to get a pack of them coming back at you when they're fully healed, basically. So it can slow down your ability to take outposts. It's going to slow down your ability to see the map because the less outposts you have, the less vision you have, the less economy you're going to have. So while it doesn't seem like a big deal, in the grand scheme of things, that can be the difference between having 40, 50, 60, of a certain resource when it comes to, 20, 30 turns from now into the game. So maybe more. So that's the thing that you have to kind of
guys,
think
I just
about,
want to
right?
point out. Descar, are you streaming?
So this is a cast. I'm recording offline. So right now you're you're in the cast basically, but it's fine. I mean, this is not like we're not getting paid to do this. We do this on our free time, and it's for the community. So just say hi, everybody. I'm Mike. But we're trying to make it information for new players. We're trying to spend a lot of energy pointing out certain builds, certain tactics we're seeing. So when people watch a Gladius game, they're getting a lot of information, a lot of useful information. And it makes it easier having Falana also jump in because I can't see everything. I'm only one person. So far, we're on turn 19, going to turn 20. We're seeing an aggressive. No, we should probably talk about this. So Yurga on the Russian side, he's pushing middle. Like if you look at his units, he's not even going to the back, taking the corner back. He's pushing like basically toward his opponents. Now, you might say, why? Why is he doing that? There's a couple reasons why he wants to do that. One, he wants to be aggressive. One, he wants as much intel as he can get. He wants to know maybe the first unit he spots, he can look at the upgrades and make assumptions. Oh, this is the type of build they might be going. So I think there's kind of a purpose why he's going towards the enemy. Now, he's going to run into a bunch of Umbras, which is unfortunate. He sees the first Umbra, and then the rest are in the fog of war, basically. So that's going to slow him down. He's definitely not going to get too far if he continues to go that direction. The other method is, well, that's basically it. It's here's the thing: if he catches someone going super greed, meaning like at this point not even a production build he built, he could make the decision, I'm going to try to overwhelm the base with Guardians. But in this case, he's gone all Rangers. So I think really his intentions are to get scouting information and just hold map control. This is probably what his best hope for is. I hope that my opponent wants to try to contest me with map control, because if that's the case, Rangers are going to do phenomenal in that sort of engagement if your opponent goes infantry, which in this case, if we look, we're not seeing infantry builds out of either of them. So Khazar's going full mech build, and Sisters is going full mech build. So no, not even a mixed build. So the Rangers in this game are going to be very ineffective. The only thing I could see them doing is maybe trying to snipe an engineer. But that's pretty much it. We're not going to see hardly any infantry whatsoever in this game. So that's unfortunate, because he literally invested into 3 Rangers, and that might come back to bite them. So that's all I'm going to say about at this point. That's a big investment. Think about it. You could have 3 Guardians instead, which Guardians are a multi-purpose sort of infantry unit. 1, 2. No, he has 4 Rangers. I stand corrected. So that's a huge investment. And this is the thing, I think, where Yurga probably he gambled, and they might still win based if Chaos plays really well. But like again, against Hydras, Chimeras, and Immolators, and then Exorcists, those Rangers are doing nothing. They're not doing anything. So we'll see if that bites them in the butt.
Yeah, it's funny when you said 3, because I just saw the 4th one come out, and I was like, oh, it's a little more than 3. He's got 4 now. So yeah, it is a little unfortunate, and it's kind of unusual to see both of your opponents to go vehicles. So
Right.
meanwhile, these players obviously cannot see each other right now. So there is a rock paper scissors kind of going on in the dark right now that they
Right.
cannot see.
In a team
So
game,
it is important.
in a team game, it's less of a risk, like you said, because usually in team games, you'll probably see infantry and a mech build put together. So like there's a high possibility, like, yeah, one of them is gonna have infantry, and Sister does like to go infantry a lot of times. So this is kind of ironic that unfortunately it was a guess by Yurga, and it was a high probability, but it ultimately failed. They both went mech. So Obviously, we're seeing Khazar put down his base. He's got it near a grassland, or on an Arctic ore field.
I see. Okay, so he's trying to get, he's going for science and ore.
Chaos is going. Looks like Chaos is going mono vehicle. We're seeing 1 fabricator in the main, and then 2 fabricators in the expansion. So turn 22, we already have 3 production plus the cultist, 4. So 4. Chaos is a very amplified mid to late game faction. So kind of reminds me of Tyranids a bit. Like they're a little scary once they get the production going.
Yeah. I wonder. Okay, so I guess from the looks of it, Chaos is doing a bit more of an aggressive build, because he decided to basically stay on 2 base, and he's banking a lot of influence right now. I do want to point that out. So I wonder what he's gonna do with it.
Well, we might see the third base here. He's got a cultist moving out,
You're right.
so that
You're
might
right.
be the third base coming
It's gonna
down.
be going down right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, third base
There
comes
it
down.
Got it.
Yeah, so another thing is you might hear us say third base, two base. Now, what does that really mean? Like if you're new to Gladius, what are we talking about here? So basically, three bases for most faction is the ideal economic mid to late game or late game best production, best economy. It's called a three base. Now, there's some factions that can kind of go four, like Tyranids if they want. Tau can go four if they do the Fireblade hero and they level him to 6. So there's some exceptions there, but ultimately, if you want the best bang for your buck, the best sort of late game economy / production, you want to go three bases. Now, Space Marines the one city faction, but they're very unique, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail, but we're seeing from Eldar. Does Eldar have 3? I see 2 bases. I don't think I see a third base out. Astra 3, Sister 3, and Chaos 3. So it's the real question is Eldar going to get that third base? Are they just going to stick with 2? Now, 2 bases, the benefit of 2 bases is you can go a little more aggressive on that production in the early to mid game, which usually gives you a much bigger army. And so you have a potential to win that first early to mid battle. And sometimes that's enough to end the game. The only problem is Eldar sort of guessed wrong on the Rangers because we're going to see no infantry from the enemy team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. He is banking a little. Hold on.
Oh, third city goes down.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he was saving the influence for it, so it should have went down somewhere. Oh, here it goes. Okay, that's a pretty forward base. That's fairly aggressive, but it looks like he's really.
He's building,
prioritizing
yeah,
the
he's
two
building
bases.
ore in the mid base, which almost tells me that maybe we're gonna see him build some
Yep.
wave serpents. So
Yeah.
like a mix build, maybe, because what his ore is okay at 30. Like if you're not gonna go vehicles, plus 30 for a turn should be enough to just spam out the witch. I was gonna say witches. The enough to build your buildings. See, warlocks don't require ore, so 34 is not a lot of ore per turn, but it's enough to just build your buildings, and then produce warlocks.
Gotcha. No.
Because warlocks are just food and energy, no ore costs. But because we're seeing an ore get slapped down, that kind of tells me he probably will build the armories to get the wave serpents. Most likely, we'll see.
I do want to add that both Khazar and Sister have very good starts when it comes to vehicles. If you look at
Yeah.
Sister's bases, she has double ore outpost, which is pretty unusual to kind of get that. So she got very lucky because she literally has 1, 2, 3 ore outposts in the very tight vicinity of her area. So very, very fortunate there. So that's going to be very good for her going into the mid and late game. She's going to definitely be able to sustain a very big vehicle army with that.
Yeah. So we have more of just a two armories so far for Sisters. So she is building that third, but it's going to be 4 turns. But a little bit slower kind of aggressive production there. Khazar's definitely more aggressive with the more early army here. He has 3 armories already for Astra.
Yep.
And he has Rights of Machines, and he just used it. So those 3 armories are doing 20 production right now for vehicles. If you look at Chaos, he's 9 production plus another 10 production. So Chaos has 4 armories, but Khazar has a little bit more production because of his rights. The rights of Machine Spirits gives you 33% more production when you're from your armories, basically, in that city. You have to spend 22.5 influence, which he has enough. So again, insert your cheat code as Astra Militarum, be like, You might have more production builds than me, but I have better edicts.
Yes, most definitely. And I believe Khazar is going to be going for a fairly mid-game build. It's an early to mid-game build. I wonder if the game lasts longer, how, and if he's going to plan to transition out of it. But I believe he's going for the 666 build, which is going to prevent a lot of loyalty problems. One problem with Astra is they have a lot of loyalty issues because unlike other armies, none of their buildings that you build, whether it's barracks, whether it's manufactorum, none of their buildings give them none of their production buildings give them loyalty bonuses. So they run into a loyalty issues very quickly on 3 base. As you can see, his main base is already minus 12. So what he's going to do in order to prevent that from getting worse, he's going to cap off the population at 6. He's producing his final ore extractor, which is going to put him at 7 out of 6 population, and then he's probably going to turn off the crane, and he's going to just pump as many vehicles as he can to keep it going.
Yeah.
And then his other 2 bases are basically going to be auxiliary bases that are going to support him and mostly resources only for now, mainly being ore and or energy when needed.
So I'll just.
Although, sorry, he is actually adding another manufacturer, which is going to put him up to 4 total. So he is still looking for a higher vehicle production.
Yeah, edicts also counter loyalty penalty a little bit by
Right.
giving you a little more production. Yeah, I was gonna say we're seeing Reapers being produced by Yurga. So Reaper's a really excellent new unit for Eldar. Now I usually classify them like Devastator type units. You have these type of units in the game that are very powerful from range, but they're squishy. When they die, they do morale loss you quite a bit. So they're like a two-edged sword. They're very effective. They could definitely swing a battle, but if you're a little careless with the positioning, or you're not protecting them well enough, or you have them too much in the front line, it's very easy to destroy these with most units. Because, like I said, they're like a 3 model kind of low HP, low armor unit. So, but these players are pretty good skill level. I'm sure we're gonna see them play very smartly. And that middle is a party of Umbras. Like, literally, it's kind of funny. We didn't talk about relics on the map. I usually like to go over that. So we got relics. So this is a medium-sized map, 2v2. And I like to start maybe on the right side. Okay, I know in the middle there's a loyalty relic. So that's kind of the contested relic, I think, between players. But it's more on Sister's side, I think. Do you see any relics? There should be 3 relics.
If you go to the loyalty relic, if you follow it straight
north,
east or to the right side, there is a damage relic right behind the lake.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say Khazar and Sister kind of high rolled into the relics more because they got a damage to the right, and the loyalty relic. Well, actually, the loyalty relic is contested between green and red, but it seems closer to Sister, to be honest. And then you have a loyalty relic that's sort of right north, and again, that's sort of contested. So if you look at the positioning of the relics, it definitely kind of favors Sister and Khazar if they're aggressive on their map control. But we'll see which team benefits. And sometimes you don't see the teams even getting them because the battles are too intense, and you can't take troops out of your main army to go secure a relic because you need every troop at the battle. So I don't know if we're gonna see that happen right now. I mean, we're in sim turns right now, so the nice thing about sim turns when you're playing with sim turns is there's sort of a sense of security, because until another team declares I want sim turns off, and then you war 2 turns from that turn, you have an ability to kind of quickly mobilize your troops back to where they need to be to protect yourself from an attack. In most cases, if you're over there in the corner of the map, maybe not so much, but that's the benefit of this system. Why players play on sim turns from the get-go? There's a couple of reasons. Because it makes the game go a lot quicker. The fact that you are basically playing against the wildlife in your spawn areas makes more sense. But as soon as you get closer to your opponent and you want to go hands-on with your opponent, then it makes total sense to go back to the standard way of playing Gladius, which is each team gets a turn and it's turn by turn. All right, so we've seen some Hellbrutes, Rhinos come out from Chaos. Khazar is producing lots of Chimeras and Hydras. Sister is getting a Cascadator down. We're going to see that unit. Now that unit is a pretty powerful unit. It can be sort of specialized based on the ammunition. I couldn't say that properly. But it's a pretty good unit. I like it. Mullerfee being produced by the Chaos player and another Hellbrute.
One thing I was very surprised by recently was a game that I did versus a sister player, and I was quite surprised to see how effective their vehicles are. Mainly the Exorcist. When it comes to vehicle battles, that thing has range 3, and its anti-armor damage is very, very impressive. So even though I was playing Astra, which I think has a very good vehicle army, they were doing very well, trading very well into the Lehman Russes. So Sister's vehicles surprised me quite a bit, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of composition the Sister player decides to go for here, especially since it's going to be combined with the Astra armor force. So it'll be interesting to see what they go for.
So Falana, I'm going to quickly get a drink. So I'll be gone like for just 2 minutes. And then I'll just let you kind of talk about stuff. And I'll be right back.
Good. Oh no. I see Sister's Immolator tank is out past her second base, and it is down to only 5 HP. If that tank goes down, that would be a huge loss. I see another tank that she has also very low HP. Wow, she's pushing way too aggressively into these neutrals. There's another Immolator that's down to 7 HP. So and so far I see nothing but Immolators, which I'm quite surprised by. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 5 Immolator tanks, which are basically transports that have heavy flamers on them. So they are decent against infantry, but they have a very limited use. Okay, Khazar, the Astra Militarum player has now complementing his vehicle, his early vehicle force with some basilisks, which is a form of artillery. One of the most powerful artillery in the game because it has a very good range. They have a range of 5, which allows you to bombard your opponent well before they can engage into your army and weaken their troops. It's mostly a vehicle that's used versus infantry, but it does surprising damage, and even some late game infantry like Terminators and the heavier armored Space Marines actually take quite a bit of damage from the Basilisk. So
no, David,
they have a lot of value.
You've been playing all this time.
I am taking a break. I'm AFK. Wait, let me just come back in 8 minutes so I can go to the AFK.
Wait, and then you're up.
Yeah, and then I just AFK.
No, the machine's the machine is making it hot in my room because you're burning all the graphics and everything.
Alright, can I at least AFK there for like 3 minutes?
That's it.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, just FYI for people, I have a little man cave, and in my man cave, I have a lot of entertainment. I have my board game area, my computer area, and I also have like a big TV to watch movies or play console games or whatever. But my son, my oldest son, he loves to come in and play Xbox, Fortnite, you know, all those games. So, anyways, so all the entertainment's in this one room, and yeah. All right, so I guess nothing super exciting's happened at this point. We're just seeing a lot of wildlife clearing. We are, I guess, orange and green are linking up, at least clearing the way to their bases.
Yeah, if you look at Sister's army, one thing I did notice, she came very close to losing 2 immolators. One of them is at 7 health, and one of them, the one that's on the outpost, went down to 5 health, I think a turn or two before this. So she was pushing out very aggressively, almost got punished, and lost 2 immolators. That would have been a big deal. There's another one here fighting a scorpion that's down to only 14 HP. So a lot of her tank armies heavily damaged.
Beat up, yeah.
I wonder what she's gonna do to heal them, because one minus with Sisters.
You don't have healing for the vehicles, right?
Yeah, you don't have any healing for your.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a big factor. So, like you're saying, you know, you're being aggressive, taking a lot of Overwatch shots, fighting a scorpion. What if they sim turns off, and you now have to, you know, get prepared to face a push? Half your vehicle army's all beaten up. You don't want to be defending with vehicles with 7 health, 5 health. That's very dangerous, because if a vehicle dies, their death experience is a lot more than infantry. So that demorals your army quite a bit. But good point, Fulana. I agree with you. We're seeing Khazar kind of pushing more out of his spawn area. Looks like he wants to get rid of that bastion. I will say this, Fulana, that Chaos has a really good rock, paper, scissor army against their builds, right? Because you got Muller Fiends, you got Hell Brutes, you're going to see Forge Fiends. So they, the Chaos Green player, which is Sir No Sir, he'll have the greatest army to counter their stuff. But you have Eldar with a ton of Rangers, which aren't going to do that much. The Reapers will do some. And then eventually when he gets Warlocks, those are going to help a lot too. But yeah, we'll see how it comes. I think what Khazar and Sister have to do, because in my opinion, vehicles are very strong, but I think they're the strongest if you can death ball them in a nice death ball. Like, they get very strong. If you ever played a game of Gladius and you watch like the Hammerhead count go up or the Lemon Rust count go up, it always feels like as they get more of those particular units, it's much more harder and harder to defeat the army. Because you gotta remember, vehicles have range and they're more tankier. So the more units you have of that particular type is a lot more harder to, say, defeat infantry. Infantry are a little bit easier to get rid of, and they do kind of usually less damage than vehicles most of the time, not all the time.
Correct. Now, the Eldar does have the option of fire dragons. They are there. However, now he's making an army that's purely guardians. He's got those 4 rangers. We initially said he does, and now he's starting to sprinkle in quite a bit of Dark Reapers. So he has a specialized squad that's kind of an all-rounder. He's got the Reapers for vehicles, and he has the Rangers for infantry. So his army now all of a sudden became a force that's kind of mixed. It's good. It's very versatile. And then you have the Chaos Vehicle Force, which is primarily good against vehicles. So I think they're in a really good place. I do want to add that Sister has been in the back of the map too much. Right now, I think she's spending too much time there. And she's
Yeah, turn 33. It is risky.
This
Yeah.
is too risky. And
At
she's
turn
leaving her
33, I
teammate
agree with you.
alone. she's leaving her teammate alone in the middle of the map, which is where they both should be in the taking the middle of the map like the orange and green team are for map control and for the ability to coordinate your first attack. The team
I
that
think-
coordinates
Yeah.
first
Go on,
is gonna have
Flanet.
advantage, and it's going to have initiative. And I think that's very important because any 2v1 situation in this game will.
Oh, it's devastating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. You could be one of the best players that ever played Gladius, but here's the thing. The numbers don't lie. Like, yes, you can try to outmaneuver and get the terrain advantage, but at the end of the day, if you're facing an army that's double your size, you have to basically kill double. So, yes, you might have killed half that army, but then the other half is going to kill you. So, yeah, you definitely do not want to be a victim of 1 versus 2. It's very painful and very, very hard to attack an army that's all together when it's just yourself, or to defend even. But I would say, like you're saying about, it's like turn 30-ish, and Sister is kind of farting around in like the far part of her east side of the map, which could potentially put her out, her teammate in a really bad position. Like I said, we've seen Russian games. If you go to the YouTube channel, VRP and Lost One, they are very good at getting death balled really early. If you watch their games, like we're talking turn 25, and they're already all together as an army, and they're pushing somebody. So think about that. If say they were able to at turn 25 and then turn 30 they're at Khazar's base together, it's a 1 versus 2. It's literally a 1 versus 2. So I think that's something that teams need to be aware of. Like yes, you can clear your corners and stuff like that, but you have to do it early. You have to do it early, and don't be greedy when it's turn 30-ish, and because you won't be able to link up with your ally.
I agree, and not sure if she's seen the relic and the fact that it's there. But the thing is, the wildlife density in that area, and the fact there's a ton of scorpions, which actually happen to be very, very effective against her composition right now. She only has immolators. I think she built too many personally. I think she has 5, which is it's just a transport unit. I have some flamethrowers on it. So it's very limited in its use. It's only good against light infantry.
Another thing too, Flan, like I'm listening to you. It's a transport unit with nothing to transport. So it's like, yeah. And she just lost immolator right there. So not good at all. So yeah, you got to question. Like obviously the Rangers, that was just a bad guess by Yurga. It could have worked out for him, but not this game. But again, with the transports, but you have nothing to transport, so you're losing kind of a key function of that utility, right? You're going a lot of transports, but you have nothing to transport. They're okay, like damage wise, they'll do some decent damage against the infantry of Eldar. But again, for me, I think it's almost like it's a missed opportunity, right? Like the transports are nice, but they're even nicer if you can use it to move your troops around the battlefield.
It's definitely a wasted opportunity cost. Absolutely agree. The transport obviously has transport slots in the vehicle, and having transport slots in a vehicle, when it comes to the actual statistics and the actual stats of the vehicle itself, will mean that it generally has less firepower than vehicles that don't have transport slots. So you're obviously paying a price for those cargo slots. They just don't come for free. So if you compare the immolator to any vehicle like a Hydra or anything of that sort, you're obviously missing out on firepower. So there's a definite price that you're paying for that, and so we're going to see how that's going to basically translate later on. Now they will be able to block some hexes for them during a battle, but yeah, potentially do a little bit of tanking for the higher value tanks like the castigators and the exorcists that want to be hiding behind the actual immolators. so they don't get connected on by the Hell Boots or Mauler Fiends. So you could make an argument for that, but still, you are paying premium for it.
One thing I want to note here is we've got Sister getting the hero Dialogus. Now, Dialogus is interesting hero. Basically can buff the range accuracy and range armor penetration of a target sister sort of unit. So Cascaders are a good target in the early game. So we'll see her take advantage of that hero. Another thing is she's getting an icon on that hero, which again is another smart play. So a lot of new players don't realize when you go a fairly early hero, these icon scrolls can pay off if the game goes a little bit longer. You know, you'll start to really gain that economic advantage. So we are seeing now some survivability items on the Dialogus, so a vest and a bracer, and that's going to give make her ability to kind of go out a little bit on the near the front line a bit and not to worry too much. But against Elder, I say you always have to worry because 2 fire dragons can quickly end your day. Warlocks can end your day. So I personally wouldn't even bother with the armor. I would save up for a wing. And why that I think that's better in this matchup, like I said, the fire dragons don't care, the warlocks don't care, reapers do fairly good damage. So I think I much rather save up for that wing because the wing will allow you to move your support hero, use the free action, or no wait, oh okay, I messed up. I thought the buff ability was a free action. It says consume action, so the wing would not work properly with Dialogus actually. Okay, so let me clarify. So the wing is really good in heroes that have the quotation free action. Why? Because like let's use a commissar. So commissar can move next to its infantry units. They have a passive accuracy buff, so right there you're benefiting. And then usually they have a thing called Bring It Down, which is another free action that gives you more armor penetration. The nice thing about the wing is, as long as you have a consume action available, you can then hit the wing, and now you have another 5 movement to move back or safe. And that's basically what you see in a lot of high level play with certain support heroes. And support heroes are generally flimsy. They generally can be taken out pretty easy. Dialogus can actually tank a little bit because of the buffs, the Shield of Faith, and a couple other traits. But yeah, armoring up. But Dialogus has to use consume action to use the ability. So, but it is going to be, like I said, against Aldar, it's going to be risky. So they have to be very careful. I use that word lightly. We're seeing Umbras being targeted now by the Reapers. Both teams, I guess, want to close the gap with each other.
Yeah, I believe the orange-green team, which is Yurga and Sunos, are just, I think they just want to clear out as much as they can in front of their base. So if any attack does come, they have a longer time to react. Because right now, that Eldar base is really far forward. It's a very aggressive base, which is both a plus and a minus. But they're trying to play aggressively and kind of have that base be more like a staging point, which is going to be a big benefit when it comes to contesting that loyalty relic, which they seem to be kind of gunning for at the moment.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You know what? I got to say good on you because that is a big economic advantage.
Huge, yeah.
If you can land it. And they're going to get a lot of experience from these neutrals, giving their army a really big advantage when it comes to damage. I don't know if new players know this, but units in this game can gain experience, and as your units gain experience, they gain a bonus to their health pool and to the amount of damage that they deal.
And leadership.
So,
their leadership goes up too, so harder to break them.
Yes, correct. So having units that are highly experienced versus
High
some
health
that
and more
isn't
damage.
makes
Yes, it
big,
again,
big deal.
it boils down to there's some games where like a player's trying to take down that last unit and they're short like maybe 2 damage. But think about it, because it's a level 5 unit, right? So it has more health. So little things like that do pay off sometimes big in very close games. Now we're seeing that they want to farm the Umbras, so which is smart. I mean, Umbras are very juicy. They give a lot of death experience value, which will level up this Dialogus quite a bit. Again, getting those heroes higher level is going to make them more effective, and that's the key. So good move. I mean, Hydras definitely do really good against Umbras. But you're right. Going back to that loyalty relic, it's only 2, but you got to remember, it's 2 loyalty per city, right? So it's saying,
Yes.
yeah. So having 3 cities kind of translates into 6 loyalty, which is like a loyalty building in itself. So it is pretty big. And again, when the game is very close and everything is like min-max, these things do make a difference, as much as people might not think they do, but they do.
Absolutely, and I just want to point this out for maybe some newer players that don't know how loyalty works. Loyalty is a stat that, as your city, it actually becomes more important when it goes into the negative. Unfortunately, because negative loyalty is worth twice as much as positive loyalty on your base. So if your base has a positive loyalty of, let's say, +4, it gets 4% bonus on everything, production and resources. But if it's -4%, it gets a -8% bonus on everything, including production and all of your resources. So because players go 3 base economy for right now, their bases are going to be in negative loyalty. So getting getting a two bonus loyalty on your base. Getting two bonus on 3 bases is basically 6 loyalty total. However, because your bases are in the minus, that's going to be that 6 is actually going to be a 12. So it's basically kind of getting like a 12% boost to your total economy, and that's a very big deal when you consider how many turns you're going to be holding onto that thing for. It's going to equal to a lot of bonus resources and production over time. So it's a lot bigger than it first seems.
Yeah. Right, mission save Hellbrute from the clutches of the enslaver.
That is correct.
And one more ranger should do it.
Now, because the other army is here, that enslaver has nowhere to run. But if the enemy army wasn't here, okay, they got it. Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes you get these situations where you get blocked by line of sight or another neutral where you can't quite put the enslaver down, and all of a sudden it takes off, and your unit is and you find yourself with a unit that's mind controlled, and it's no longer yours. So just something funny that can sometimes happen with the interactions of these neutrals. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but when you hover over the Hellbrute, take a look at its morale right now. It is literally in a broken state.
Yeah.
So if they fight right now, that Hellbrute is going to be
A juicy
heavily
target.
debuffed. Juicy target.
Juicy target.
For some of the players that don't know how the morale in this game works, morale's a very big deal, and I love how the makers of this game implemented it into the game itself. It's a really, really big deal.
Yeah, a lot of it came from the actual tabletop, which I think is a testament to how well the tabletop is. Like literally, they use the tabletop as a kind of a blueprint / Bible for making this game, and I think that's why a lot of players have been playing. Like we have a lot of people that have played this game for years and years and years, and they're still playing it. And I just think because it's It's a really good thought out mechanical game, and a lot of it's based exactly under the tabletop. I know a lot of the units, they're very they don't just throw out a unit and go, oh, I think that is a predator tank based on like they really look at the actual numbers in tabletop, and that's how they come up with a lot of the damage, attack, the movement is kind of based under the tabletop. Now it's not like one for one, but there's a big heavy emphasis on staying kind of true to the actual tabletop. Okay, we are seeing an aggressive kind of push here, not into the enemy force, but pushing closer. Now they're not quite at the doorstep of each other, but the next turn or so they will be having a Mexican show off, basically. Standoffs, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you know, this is really really exciting right now. I love the positioning that the vehicle force has. You always want your force to keep it positioned in a little bit of like a almost like a half round circle, like what you would call a radius or a concave. That way when your enemies go into your army, most of your units will be in range to basically overwatch whatever is moving into you. So that's so I got to give them some props on that fine positioning.
Yeah, they're creating like an arc, like you said.
Yeah, it's I feel sorry for the Umbra that finds itself between a rock and a hard place right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see who is going to decide to commit first and how they're going to go about this engagement. Because I will say that the forest generally, when you have infantry in your army, you want to be using terrain to your advantage, because infantry gets
A cover bonus.
cover bonuses from forests and from imperial ruins.
And vehicles do not.
Vehicles exactly do not. You want to be utilizing that. And right now there's a lot of forests that Khazar and Sister are going to have to kind of go through. So if I were them, I'm moving a little bit north. Yeah, taking that concave and moving it north a little bit to kind of stay clear.
You
of
get
that
yeah,
forest.
you get out of that terrain. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very beneficial for them. But let's see what they decide to do here.
Yeah, I mean, the immolators can do okay in the forest because it's a flamethrower weapon, but even that, it's not like you're not one-shotting guardians. You're doing like half their models, which again, they can do. Especially if we see, he's lucky that there's no. I was gonna say fire dragons, because they definitely would love to fight in the forest, like.
Yes, that would be a dream scenario for the fire dragon.
Because basically, when you fight in like very thick forest or ruins, units that are sort of in the center of it can't be attacked from the outside because they're sort of in the double hex of the cover. So the only units that can attack them are the hex right next to that unit. If they're in the forest or ruins on the outside leading to a non-forest tile, then yes, things outside that can kind of range it. So that's just another kind of detail about when you fight in ruins or forests. There's different levels of like safety netting, so to speak. Like a lot of times people like to put their heroes kind of more in the center of the ruins or forest, because if they were to get focus fired, they are focus fired by one or two units most of the time, because they literally have to go right next to that hero in the cover to actually target them. Whereas if they're on the outside of the forest, you could maybe get like a concave of units targeting it out on the outskirts. So we see Immolator sort of kind of going ahead of the army here. So that could be like a bait unit. I'll explain what the bait is like. So a bait is basically where you dangle maybe a high value unit, but usually it's one. But in this case, they're moving a lot more units, so it's not a bait anymore. This is more of a push. There's different terms. Yeah, there's different terms. People, yeah, they're going north. Yeah, I was just gonna say there's different kind of strategies. Like when you get into like an engagement with your opponent, there's like people like to do maybe defensive or like aggressive push forward. Like in this case, they're a little bit push forward. They're in a position where the other team can do an alpha strike. Now here's the thing. I'm using all these terms. I did in some of my videos. I did explain what they are, but so an alpha strike is basically it's a strike that you hit your opponent and you hit them so hard that a lot of their stuff dies, and the rest of the stuff that is alive is bad morale, meaning it's broken. And why that is like an alpha strike is because you've done so much damage that you maybe killed half the army, and the rest of the army is in a bad state where they're in the red, where they do less damage and take more damage. So it's a lot harder for that army to get back in the blue, because now they have to use a bunch of red units which do much less damage. They need to kill something or a couple units to just get back into the blue. So it's kind of like a tug of war type system. A failed alpha strike is when you do not break the other army and you don't kill enough units. Then you're liable to a counterattack. So counterattack is when the other team usually starts in the blue or is close to the blue, and they're able to use a lot more units than what your alpha strike was and kill you more than you attempted to kill them. So right now, like again, we have the Mexican standoff. Now we got a Guardian going in there as to figure out, okay, how many units are here. He disbands it. Now that is actually not a bad tactic because it was one model. Why he disbands it is he probably wants to now attack. Now we got a Rhino going in. Either Overwatch, ouch, that Exorcist just said lights out, not today. So Rhino, not a terrible choice for Eden Overwatch, but against the Exorcist, that's not good because Exorcist does have the stopping power just to delete it. If the Rhino survived, it could have used the healing mechanism. Now Guardians are not a great unit to Overwatch, or Cultist would have been a much better target, but this Cultist at 1616 is being blocked by Wireweed, so it can't really get to the spot it needed for the Exorcist to Overwatch it. So I think what they're doing right now, they realize that, hey, they got a lot of intel. They can see that the enemy sort of pushed a bit, and they didn't have enough units to do a really effective alpha strike. So the next best thing is the Russian team is trying to set a more defensive in nature formation, and they're going to say, okay, fine, you try to alpha strike us. And they have the advantage at the base, meaning they get the base attack plus defense bonus in the CDX. So really, it's a question is, are Khazar and Sister, do they think they have the advantage with army right now? Do they think they can push the Elder base? That's going to be the main question with Khazar and Sister.
I did notice Khazar doesn't have rally points on his bases. At least I can't see them because his Limit Russes are just literally hanging out there. They should already be moving out and forward towards the middle of the map. So that's maybe something he should do to help save a little bit of time, because those Limit Russes making it to the front line ASAP is extremely important for them.
Yeah.
So I want to see those rolling out and basically getting here as soon as possible. He is producing Tech Priests as well and adding another Manufactorum. Now, I will add that his Tech Priests are missing Bastions and they don't have Void Shield Generators either. This is okay, but I know you can't afford everything.
That's a strange move. He moved the Lemon Rust to target a gate by a Bastion and robots. I would have just left that gate because you have 3 robots and a Bastion. If he does teleport a unit, that thing's gonna get exploded on by those robots and the Bastion. Yeah, I feel like that could have been a misplay. Like he needs that tank down here supporting the attack force right now. Now here's the question. Khazar and Sister could decide to say, no, we're not going to attack the base because you have the defender advantage. But we're going to take your loyalty relic and we're going to try to take some of your outposts. That is the safer play. And in the chance of the other team tries to push and alpha them, they can then counterattack. So, but we are seeing a Hydra kind of move forward here. Again, but not a full like aggressive siege. We're seeing more of a poke siege, or not.
Yes, it's
I
more
wouldn't
of a
say
poke, yeah.
it's a poke, right? They're still
Poke.
they're still maintaining their core. Okay, well
Okay.
that's a pretty okay. That's turning more into a aggressive poke now. Now here's the thing: the Hellbrute's been hit. Exorcist. Okay, they're gonna go for the Hellbrute kill. I mean, on the outpost, not a bad. You could say that's a bait for the team to siege, but this is a big couple turns here because this is going to be the deciding factor. One team's going to win this engagement. Right now, Exorcist and Kassar are being very aggressive. You got the city that can hit that immolator, so that's going to die pretty easily. You got Chimeras on the side going for the infantry. Now, remember, like I said, these Rangers aren't doing anything. So, but yeah, so that's kind of sad for definitely Hjurga. I mean, I wouldn't be that ballsy to just guess like that, but
I will say those Rangers are more tanky than they appear because they're sitting in a forest right now.
and they have the shrouded
have
ability. I think
shrouded.
shrouded,
So
right?
they're gonna get their money's worth as far as just tanking a bunch of rounds here.
Yeah,
Because ours just ignoring that.
but that's
Just
all they're
running
gonna
the
do
same
basically.
Yeah, yeah. They're just literally taking up hexes.
All right, so this is gonna be a big turn. Can the Russians counterattack here? So they need to be able to delete a couple units, get their morale back on track. There is a tasty immolator that's close to the city that can get damaged heavily. Now the city is broken, so it's not doing as much damage. The play here is he has a fire dragon in the back line, 1221. He could move that up and hit the Hydra that's on the outskirts of the oh wait, no, he's out. Sorry, the movement, he can't get it. Forward movement. Oh, it's the forest. Sorry, I didn't see. There's a double forest there blocking.
Yes.
So that's unfortunate. So that fire dragon is not going to be there, but they are going for this level 4 immolator that's by the relic. They should be able. Yeah, they have a Molar Fiend, but they probably want to use a Reaper to finish it. Yeah. Oh, the Reaper doesn't quite have the damage. He needs to be blue. Okay. City's yellow. You could go immolate. Okay, uses the other Hellbrute. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
I think he was forced to. Otherwise, they would have.
All right, so the bottom units are back in the blue. So, and here's the thing: they have a 2-minute and 20-second time right now. They do have a battle pause. If any team can use their one and only battle pause for the game, and that gives them more time. Now, I don't know.
I'm just gonna whisper out because a lot of players would probably forget.
So you took down that weak aggressive unit that we were talking about, and that was done by now the Molar Fiends are excellent units. Like I said at the beginning, the Chaos build is perfect for this type of army, like perfect. There's like that's the weakness of a mono vehicle. You have no chaff units, right? So you get these big Molar Fiends that love to go one-on-one with vehicles, and that's what you're seeing right now. Right. So Flans is writing in the team or in the all chat that each team has a battle pause if they wish to use it, which gives them more time. Each game you're allowed one battle pause. But that's another factor. Like when you're playing these tournament high games, you have to be quick thinking. You have to coordinate quick with your teammate. You only have a finite amount of time, so. And I think that makes for exciting gameplay as well because, you know, it's a lot more intense, you know, let's kill, fight, move here, and your timer's going down. So, all right, so very good counterattack. Is it going to be enough? Are we going to see a full retreat here from...
Look at all these Rangers just picking up infantry and just dashing back into the base. Slick little Elder Rangers, eh? Being
Yeah.
able to fire.
Well, that was the
move.
starting infantry from Astra, yeah.
Yeah. Now, they also did manage to pick up a squad of battle sisters as well, so they cleaned up that infantry really effectively.
But when you look at it, okay, so the push from Sister and Khazar killed a Hellbrute, and did they kill another unit, or was that the only unit they kind of killed? I can't remember.
I think they killed a Guardian squad from maybe earlier, and just maybe mostly infantry, maybe like 2 infantry and a halberd.
And they did
so
some
far.
damage to the Rangers, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And then
So
Cultists, and then Cultists.
so here's the thing I would say is it's not looking good for Kazarin's sister because the counterattack on the Russians did way more damage than their pokes aggressive poke into the base area.
I think so too.
So at this point, they gotta decide. They have vehicles. They could retreat. They have the mobility to retreat and kite the enemy. Are they gonna do that, or are they gonna stand and fight? Looks like they want to stand and fight because that exorcist got moved up, and if they were to retreat, that exorcist would die, and that would be really bad for them. So they're gonna stand their ground. I guess they're gonna go for these high target units, Muller Fiends. That's a level 4. That's a big boy right there. We're gonna see some artillery, try to get the morale back. Again, you don't want to use, so sisters attacked with their exorcists, and Khazar might be mad about that because the one thing, you always want to try to attack in the blue if it's possible. So what you always should do is the units that are blue in your area of battle, you should use those first to kill models or kill a unit, and then that will help get the rest of the vehicle, your army back in the blue, and that means they do more damage.
Blue, you mean shaken? Yeah, you want to use the units that are shaken instead of the ones.
No, the blue means that they have no morale damage.
Oh, no morale damage. Okay,
Yeah, do you see how it's a light blue? That means that the unit is not shaken or broken. So now with that Mullerfiend dead, that's sort of the army's back in the blue. So you have blue, yellow is shaken, and red is broken. I mean, it looks like a light blue to me. There's like these.
Sure. That's actually interesting. I'm not sure which color you are referring to because I only see the morale when I click on the units themselves.
Maybe you have a graphic setting because I see like yellow and red and blue. Those are the different morale colors I get when I'm playing Gladius.
Very interesting. That is something either maybe a mod that I'm missing or something that I simply don't have enabled.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't. Yeah, if you watch my videos, like basically you have a health bar. The health bar is the color of your faction, and then right beside the health bar is the color of the morale. So in this case, this Mullerfiend that's almost dead is in the red. I see a red color next to the health bar.
Tiny little bar that you see there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you look at the Astra player, there is a blue, or sister is more easier to see. Her faction color is red, and then the leadership is a light blue. I don't know if you see that. That's when I refer to, they're in the yellow, they're in the red, or now they're in the blue. So blue means no morale loss or penalty. Yellow means shaken, red means broken.
Got it. Okay. Oh, that is so small. It's even hard to see on some of them, but I kind of see what you're getting at there. Yeah.
We do got warlocks. So this is going to be a big counterattack here. We got warlocks, we got fire dragons. This is going to be painful. But warlocks don't have their upgrade yet. That's the thing. Cleansing fire does a lot more damage. So we have a fire dragon with the crack shot upgrade, but is missing the piercing for the gun though. But still, that's.
Oh, you're talking about the assault. Yeah, the assault weapon pen. Actually, yeah. Yeah, tech is one of those things that it's like a give and take. You can't.
Yeah, you can't have everything. Correct. And I think that it's because going warlocks, you sort of have to sacrifice a little bit.
1 HP. Oh, wow. What do you know?
And the ranger came to fish. Okay, so I know people are going to go, well, that's great. We just saw a ranger blow up a tank. So what rangers could be good at? They are a range 3 unit. And so when you get into those units that have just a sliver of health, like 2 health or whatever, yes, a ranger can move and shoot it and finish it off. So in that regard, they do that job very well. But again, you have to get a unit down to like 2 or 3 health or 2 health for it to actually do that. In that case, he lucked out. He had a.
That is correct. Now, I will say that, generally speaking, in a battle, I prefer to have a mixed army. I think that an army that's very, let's say, like one
Well,
kind of an army is
yeah.
very easy to.
The
counter
Russians have a
because
mixed army together. That's
yes,
what you're
they
getting
do.
at, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Which is how you generally want to build an
Khazar
army.
and Sisters don't. They're mono mech. They're high, and that's you're seeing the weakness of when you
weakness
go
of the
army that's just one type.
Yeah,
they
it's
they
very
have a
easy to rock paper scissor an army that's just one type.
right.
It's very easy
Right.
to counter.
So the Russians are doing a lot of damage to Sister and Khazar. They're losing a lot of stuff. I can definitely say at this point, the battle is going for the Russians. Now, again, Khazar and Sister are going to struggle. They have to get the morale back again. Everything's broken. There is a Hydra that has the blue up there to the north. So that might be the key unit to kind of maybe get the morale slowly back into their favor. But
Now, the Lehman Russes are starting to come to the front line. What happened to the one at the very top? Okay, he decided to back off, I guess, with it, which is good.
yeah.
They're finally coming forward. Now, I don't see him producing more. I hope he's going to queue up the rest of his Lehman Russes because he has the resources to do so. I don't know why they're not being queued.
Right. What I
know
would say
that,
too, Falana, is that the only saving grace I see with the vehicle building, I think I mentioned it slightly, is that it is the best sort of, if you're able to deathball vehicles, it's a little more, it's powerful than infantry, but not by like a grand amount. But like, so, Khazar is building a lot of these Lemon Russes, but at this stage of the game, it's not enough to create that huge death ball. And the fire dragons are being mass produced now.
Yep.
Well, they're being taken priority. So, and pretty soon he's going to have cleansing fire also on the warlocks. So it's going to be a tough go here for them. I mean, they're going to have to at least not fight in the cover. I think fighting fire dragons in cover is not going to be good for them.
Yeah, I agree. Due to the efficiency, like we said, the numbers never lie. Math is, I always call it one of the truest forms of information, because no matter there's there's nothing open to interpretation. There's no vagueness like there is with words. A 5 is always going to be a 5. A 2 is always going to be a 2. So like Deathcry said, the numbers never lie. And so whenever infantry is fighting vehicles and they have the benefit of cover, that infantry is going to be much more battle efficient than a vehicle out in the open will, because you have a unit that's basically more cost effective now. You've basically given it an extra damage reduction that the vehicle does not get to enjoy versus the infantry. Meanwhile, while the infantry is enjoying a damage reduction.
That's funny that you mentioned that, like the numbers never lie. Bring up World War II. A lot of people always say like, oh yeah, the Germans got, the Russians kind of kicked the Germans' butt later in the war, which they did. But one thing that the Russian generals did very well is they didn't ironically have like, they did have a slightly bigger army than the Germans did. But what they did very well was they would calculate on a spot they would attack the Germans, but they would calculate like how many tanks do we need, how many artillery we need, how many men do we need, in order to guarantee that push at that spot would be successful no matter what. And that's what they kind of did near the pushing back of the Germans after Barbarossa. And it worked really well. Like if you look at a lot of their losses in that theater, the Russians were basically making sure they had the advantage in those areas. But like I said, in the manpower, in the tanks and all that, where the Germans were all over the place. They had great success in the starting of that war, but the logistics, how far Russia, how big the country is, they kind of set themselves up for Russia to then kind of dismantle them and then push them all the way back. But in Gladius is similar. I mean, like there's things like being close to your base. It gives you that logistic favor of getting the reinforcements quicker. And just like with Russia, right? Russia, as the Germans pushed deep in and their lines got more thinned out, Russia took advantage of that. And like, so at this point, you know, speaking of the Russians, they're fighting at Stalingrad right now, and they're closing the noose kind of, but unlike the Germans were begging to get out of the noose, and Hitler refused. Khazar and Sister are trying to break out and free their army. So another thing is they're going to more flat ground, like I mentioned, which I think is perfect. They don't want to fight this army in the cover and all that, especially Eldar. So if they can fight them more out there, closer to the Astra flatlands, I think that will maybe give them a better chance. Now we are seeing Dark Reapers snipe. That Chimera is gonna explode there. Fire Dragon's going on to the base hex. Now, that was a high value target. You got a Chimera plus a Guardsman in there, so 2 for 1. But there's a nice juicy Fire Dragon. So what they could do in this position, I don't know if they want to continue to attack. You have injured Molar Fiend, injured Hellbrute. You have another Fire Dragon going in, hitting a Hydra there. Okay, do they have a finisher here? Looks like the Molar Fiend, I guess.
They could. I'm sure they have a couple options available to them. Yeah.
So Molar Fiend's going to go in there and snap, crackle, pop. You got another Molar Fiend in the back line that can hit Castigator, but you have a healer there.
I also wanted to add that what you said about the World War II is definitely right, and I think one people don't realize about like the actual manufacturing advantage itself. What really allowed Russia to turn a tap out of the war was not just the fact that they ramped up their manufacturing. So for every 1 Tiger tank, the Russians were able to produce their 5-6 of their T tanks, and they basically realized
T-34s,
yeah, T-34s. They basically realized, you know what? A Tiger tank is extremely expensive. It costs, let's say, whatever, hundreds of man hours to build. If we can build tanks that are effective, but take much less man hours to build, even if it takes a couple of them to take on 1 Tiger, it's still worth it in the end.
Yeah, because the numbers.
A couple T-34s, exactly. It's all about the numbers. So if we can spend 200 man hours killing a tank that costs 500 man hours and much more expensive materials to build, we're winning in the long run.
Yeah.
We're coming out ahead, and that's how they thought of it. So building something that is effective but complicated and expensive is not always the way to go. War is about efficiency. So building something that is cheap but effective, that is the art of warfare, because it allows you to get more of those things on the field, and you can just simply overwhelm.
You know the crazy thing part, because we're talking a little bit about World War II, is the Germans were actually very, very effective of doing kind of these attack withdrawal type maneuvers, but they were kind of by the high command in Hitler kind of forbidden to kind of retreat or but in a lot of type of warfare, some of those tactics are extremely effective. Like when you're able to attack your opponent and then move to a different location, sometimes could throw off different strategies between armies and all that. But near the end of the war, the Germans were then kind of given the green light to start doing those sort of maneuvers, and they were, I mean, I'm not a best history expert on it, but I do know they had a lot of success when they were allowed to do tactics that they were asking to do. But again, they were refused to do that because at that time Hitler didn't believe in retreating at all or doing anything like that. But it's cool. The reason why we kind of bring this up is in Gladius, there's a lot of different tactics we're seeing, right? You're seeing poking, kiting back, going into more flatter terrain, forcing a unit out. So you're seeing a lot of different strategies here. But right now, you've got Eldar sort of holding kind of the forced area. They're using their range to their advantage. Now, I will say this, that the Russians are bleeding a lot of troops, though.
This is a big problem. I already noticed maybe 2 turns ago that the infantry is dying faster than they can replenish.
Than the vehicles, yes.
That's where the problem begins. Yeah, I kind of wanted to say when initially they were trading very evenly. I wanted to say that at this point, I think the vehicle forces should pull back and just create a
Yeah.
big ball.
You know
Because
what I
once
think
they create that
happened? I
big ball,
think they did very well on the base defense slash counter, but then once Sister and
once
Kazar
they were
moved
open,
back a bit, they chased them a bit, but then they chased into the reinforcements of the lemons and more exorcists.
far.
So I think it was they needed to just hold the defense near their base, and they needed.
Yep.
So they needed to create their own little death ball, basically. The Russians, but they lost a lot of infantry. We saw that other turn where the infantry sort of came out, the fire dragon came out and killed a transport. But again, you sort of need to have enough units, like, because these rangers aren't really countering nothing, right? So except for that one time where they did like a 2 damage HP finish shot, but that's what I'm saying. We're seeing that play in a little bit more, where these rangers are kind of a little bit dead units, a little bit. Yes, they can eat some attacks and cover, but right now they need damage. And the Chaos player lost a lot of his vehicles, so
Yes.
and they're broken right now. The current vehicles are broken, so he needs. I would say move his vehicles back behind the base, regroup, try to create another death ball or counterattack. It is scary though, because I'll tell you this: exorcists are no joke. Backed up with lemons that are super
yeah.
tanky.
Oh yeah.
This is starting to look really bad, and I think honestly, between you and me, Falana, I kind of blame it on the 4 rangers, because think about it. You could have maybe, instead of the 4 rangers, maybe 2 extra fire dragons or 2 extra reapers, and then 2 more guardians. So again, that's just my take on it, but it doesn't help. You're right. The elder player is losing the infantry a lot quicker. So this is looking, things have turned pretty quickly back into the favor for Sisters and
I
Khazar,
also
actually.
like how now they're using the vehicles to shield the tech priest, and they're using the line of sight advantage to basically now shield the tech priest with the vehicles, almost creating a little safe zone for him, so he can just buff the vehicles and heal them to his heart's content without any kind of
So
danger. That's good positioning on their
So
part.
real quick, I'm just gonna say we got 5 armories from Sisters. I'm just gonna quickly go over the production value. Astra has the Edict plus armories, so we're seeing a mega ton of Russian production here, but from Khazar, like figuratively speaking, we're seeing 6 armories with the Edict. So Khazar by far has the biggest production value in the game right now. And then far as Elder goes, how many barracks do we got here? We've got 2 in that base, and so 5 barracks from Elder. And then we've got Chaos, we got 2,
Yeah,
5. So yeah, Khazar is at 6 with Edict. So I think this is Khazar's shining moment. I think he's showcasing just the crazy production value of Astra Militarum in this tournament. We're gonna see a lot of tanks coming out, and it might just be too much. Like you said, it's a numbers game at that point. It's just, I have this many lemons. What do you got? And if the answer is not enough anti-tank stuff, you lose, my friend.
Yep, and look at the upgrades that they're coming out with. We got ammo netting, we got extra vehicle armor, we got power of the machine spirit on those, we got recovery gear, we got hotshot power packs for the extra last cannon penetration. These Lumen Russes are pretty much like maximum upgrades. The only thing you're going to be looking forward to getting as well is going to be the bolters upgrade. But honestly, they don't really need it at this point. All they have to do now is keep their vehicles together and not overextend with anything too much. And they're just going to slowly but surely whittle down the remaining forces. And I have to say that the Russian team doesn't have enough of a number to be able to create a meaningful enough counter attack at this point to inflict enough casualties.
So Sister is buffing one of her Exorcist level 4s in the forest on the outskirts. That's giving +3 accuracy and +3 range armor penetration. So that Exorcist, if a Molar Fiend moves first into the line of sight of this Exorcist, it's going to get exploded big time. So we'll see if that happens. Rangers being whittled down here. Are we gonna get a finish me on this level 5 Ranger? We'll see. Hydra can shoot it, and there it goes. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's, you know what, Gladius is like that. Like, you could have a turn and be like, oh wow, this team or this player definitely has the advantage, but one kind of mistake or too much of a blunder could then throw it back into the other team. So that's what kind of makes the game kind of exciting, because, you know, sometimes you get cocky. Like, maybe at that situation, their defense and counter was prevailing, but then they kind of pushed a little bit farther, but ran into a bunch of range angry lemons, you know, and exorcists. So that kind of quickly changed things over.
No doubt, and that's what makes this game so addictive and so fun, is how dynamic the battles can be. You know, we saw this tug of war going back and forth, where we first thought the Russian team had an advantage, then we thought Khazar and Sister had an advantage, and it just kept going back and forth. That was a really, really fun battle to watch. But you know, I will say, when the Russian team did their counterattack, it looked very, very good. The only issue is they didn't get the key targets that they needed. They killed a lot of immolators. They killed a couple chimeras.
But not the exorcists.
Yes, they did not get the exorcists. They did not get the basilisks. They did not get the hydras. And basically, then after that counterattack was complete, they were out in the open, and they just got countered. Their counter got countered, and they suffered heavy losses, and they have not been able to get sufficient enough numbers to be able to basically make a second counter, a second counter strike. Now they're trying to bide their time to make that happen. If they can get enough fire dragons, dark reapers,
it's looking bad, because if we just take a look at the battlefield, it's the Khazar sister team is really outnumbering the units here by quite a bit. So I mean, I think the Russians really need to. I think their Hail Mary is just try to assemble a big enough counter team behind the city, and then wait for them to. But the thing is, they have so many exorcists, so many tanks. They might even be able to one turn kill the city. So
I think that is a big possibility, actually.
Yeah, and that's the worst, because if the city goes, then your counterattack is kind of screwed, because it demorals the army behind the city.
Bingo. And your biggest damage reduction tiles are now absolutely gone. So it's going to be a big blow, not just to the economy itself, but to the morale of the army and their damage and the damage reduction tile that the base provides for infantry.
So we're seeing a later game Atriarch. It is getting sort of ramboed up, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be enough to handle this level of lemon production and exorcist. Like, I love the Atriarch, but at the end of the day, it's more of a support hero. Yes, it can imp grenade maybe a tank, but that's going to be it, and then wait 10 turns basically. So it will be nice on the base hex though.
Yeah, I see him as a support and like a hit and run kind of hero. You go in with him, you hit something, you kill it, and then you jump back out to keep him safe, while using forest and or base tiles, basically. But as the game gets longer, you're going to want to put him more in a purely support role, because as the high tier units start to come out, his use will become more limited. And
no cleansing flame on the warlocks. What is going on? That's such a good skill.
I'm quite surprised by that.
Yeah, I don't. That's kind of a head scratcher there. I'm not sure what's going on, because it does a lot of damage to immolator, to exorcist. If you cleansing flame does a lot of damage to exorcist.
Okay, so Khazar and Sister are moving in their tank squads aggressively. I think they smell the blood in the water.
City's already being hit by the buffed up Machine Spirited Exorcist, which is another crazy combo. So when you're playing with Astra Militarum, their engineers, their tech priests can give the Awaken the Machine, which is a huge buff, giving you +2 more accuracy on vehicles. Again, combine that with Exorcist. Exorcist is your big damage dealer at this point. Once additional bolter gets online, lemons become much better. But again, machine spiriting the Exorcist is huge damage. Like, and then you have the city in the red. This is not looking good. Another thing is, Eldar did not have to go for that gate expansion. He had an even better power thing, which was much closer sort of grouped together with the rest of his bases if you chose 720, which I really originally thought. So I think it was a lot of misplays on Yurga. Went Rangers without even knowing the mix of army composition. And then on top of that, he forward based an Eldar base, which Eldar, their base does pretty good, but it's a range 2. And again, this is the result. I mean, if the base was put farther back, you might have an easier time defending their against their push, even though they did sort of successfully counter the first poke push on their base. But after that, it's definitely gone for Khazar. I do think, though, the production on Khazar and Sister has been much better than the Russians.
They have a much more solid economy overall.
Yeah, so even though they lost a lot in their initial kind of poke, the battle quickly swung to their favor because the reinforcements kept coming in, and then they started, like you said, killing the infantry quite quickly. That base is going to die. There's no question about it. Even if their counterattack is somewhat successful here, the base is too low. The base is going. So this is not looking good for Russians. They're also, a lot of their troops are broken, and a lot of these enemy units are hard to kill, right? They're vehicles. You need, even with good morale, sometimes you need like 2 to 3 units just to kill a vehicle.
Yeah, at least that's right. Yeah, it's gonna be a huge uphill battle. The longer it goes, the bigger the uphill that they're gonna have to climb to try to have any semblance of a chance to get back in this game. Now, I did notice that the Chaos player is finally producing some Forge Fiends. However,
too little, too late. Yeah, eventually get there. Aldar's going to lose this base. They're going to move to the next base. That's going to get taken out. And then finally the last base before the Forge Fiend can even get there.
I also want to add one thing. While the Chaos vehicles are strong, they're very conditional in the way that, first of all, they're melee damage only. So they have to get in close to do their damage. So this is, I guess, where I want to kind of show the importance of a well-rounded out composition.
Another thing I will say this, but if you look at Chaos's starting respawn, he chose to build his base almost at the edge of the map, which I think was a mistake, because now your rally point for your units are much longer. Like if you would have built maybe on Arctic, the first city on the production Arctic, at least then your reinforcement time to your ally is a lot closer. Whereas like literally his unit comes out and then it has to waddle a full move turn. So there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of questionable things. Like that's one thing I noticed doesn't help them at all. Like it's taking the Chaos player a long time to reinforce Eldar because of that.
We have Sister tossing some zealot lines from the Sisters.
Yeah,
of
so
she's starting to feel herself a little bit here.
So the rules are this: as long as they're not cursing at each other, I mean, you can play the mind games like Michael Jordan. Get into your opponent's head a bit. That is all, fair game in this tournament. If you want to psych out your opponent and say, "Hey, I'm double booking you," or "Hey, I'm going to rush you," you can do that. There's no rule against trying to put that thought in your opponent's head. But definitely, they are feeling good about this one. I can tell they're probably giving themselves a high five right now. We just took down a Eldar base. they can taste victory. They can hear that champagne bottle popping, but that's just tying the series. If they win this, it's 1-1. They still have to get that last game as a win, either team. So this is not game over for the Russians. The Russians do have another chance to play them again, and the Russians have the advantage. They have the first sort of pick or sequencing, and they get to be team A or team B. So it's sort of the losing team in this sort of series will have kind of a slight advantage. But again, we wonder, will the Russians try to adjust? I mean, we saw when we saw them picking their factions, we said, okay, Eldar, they want that mobility teleport, and then we saw another strong faction pick, which is Chaos. But it just didn't seem like they were on the same page this game.
Yeah. I also want to add that I think their compositions really were where they kind of failed, because the problem is, in order for this composition to effectively battle a vehicle army, which is exactly what they're facing, they're all range 1. The chaos vehicles to do damage, they're melee, which means that they need to get right up close.
Yeah, another thing too,
for the Eldar player to do maximum damage, they need to build fire dragons, which are also range 1. So this is a huge limitation, and because their enemy army doesn't have this limitation, they're range 2. They're doing maximum damage at range 2, range 3 even. You're gonna get outranged and you're gonna get out-traded. And this is what we basically saw after the initial engagement happened. They just kept getting out-traded. They started bleeding casualties without being able to deal enough casualties back. So I think their composition in general just kind of fell apart.
Yeah. I was just going to say, another thing is, if you look at Chaos, if you click on the Chaos Empire, 542 influence in the bank, and no heroes. Like, think you could have had Chaos Lord, you could have had a Warp Smith, you could have had him jacked up. Like,
you could have had, my friend, you could have had 2 Warp Smiths for that price. You could have had 2 Warp Smiths.
Yeah, I think that was I know some people don't like to build heroes, but again, you have so much influence. These heroes in the Chaos roster are really good. They could have healed your Half-Life, Muller Fiends, and all that. You could have had more options here, but the Chaos player decided not to go heroes. But again, you have so much influence that's just not doing anything.
Exactly. I totally agree that influence should be utilized in some way.
So we got a Haywire Grenade from the Atrarch, but I think this is desperation at this point. He went on to the outpost. I mean, it might be, if the Exorcists get there, which they can with the buff from the Dialogus, I think it's lights out for Angel. They need to kill this tank, but the problem is they're demoraled, the Warlock. So the Warlock is not going to do a lot of damage here. He does have Cleansing Flame, but the problem is he's demoraled. He's broken.
You know what? You can kill a Lehman Russ, but there's 4 more on the way.
Yeah. So
you're only delaying the inevitable at this way. You're not.
And again, that grenade that the Archarch used, that's on a 10-turn cooldown. So there's no more big, huge, explosive damage from Archarch against a vehicle for another 10 turns.
Correct.
But now are they going to punish, like with Exorcists, they could potentially maybe snipe the Angel here.
Now, imagine having a beefed up Chaos Lord beside that Autarch. Now we're talking about a problem.
Smack in. Chaos Lords do really good damage too to vehicles.
They do extremely high damage. Yeah. So that could have been a very good solution to the army that they're facing here, especially when we talked about all that cover, all that forest, all those base tiles. Oh man, the Chaos Lord, that's a perfect situation for him to shine.
And here's one note, is I do like Warlocks. The best way to use Warlocks is Warlocks take the very frontal enemy units, followed by the more tankier units go ahead of the Warlocks. That way the Warlocks are not targeted on the counter, because watch this, the counterattack Warlocks die very easy. They're like glass cannons, but that's the best way to use Warlocks. If you can kill the utmost front units, and then you send in the more tankier stuff like Molar Fiends, Hellbrutes, whatever, or chaff units. And the idea is, if you keep those Warlocks alive, they could then have another turn of doing mega damage, right? So that's sort of how I like to use that strategy with Warlocks. Okay, so we see a
Now,
buffed up.
I'm not sure if you've noticed, but
We see a super buffed Exorcist take a shot on the Angel doing half its life.
Oh,
And there you go. Yeah, so Canonus buffed it, and the Machine
Yep.
Spirit buff, and the additional Heavy Bolter upgrade was Lights Out for the Angel.
Yeah.
And that was on the
This is what
outpost
happens.
tile only. Yeah.
I was gonna say, one great way to get an advantage in a battle is to use the terrain to your advantage. Another great way is to simply manipulate the battlefield itself. I'm not sure if you noticed, but Khazar is using his 3 tech priests right now to clear forest tiles as they're moving forward. So he's basically clearing forest
Oh
tiles.
yeah, to make the
reducing
army
any-
more mobile to the front line.
Yeah, and opening up the the lines of sight for his units so they can support each other much better. This is pretty much the finishing blow there.
Yeah, this is literally this is like the enemy at the Berlin gates basically, and
Yeah.
the regime is
inevitable,
over.
but Berlin is gonna burn.
You lost the war. Now you're gonna pay for all your war crimes to the planet Gladius. Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, like you said, they killed the one tank, but in reality, it's like, well, he's just producing a tank here or there every single turn. So, and then you lost the Angel. So, and
Yeah,
everything's
You basically traded 60 resources, which is what a tank costs, for an Autarch, which is probably what, at least 120 total to build him, plus all the items on him. We're talking 300-400, 60 resources for around over 300 resources. I don't know about you, Des, but in my book, that's a worthy trade any day of the week.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the dialogue has a really cool level 6 ability, but not that great in this army composition because it's only for
Infantry.
infantry for melee that are sister units.
Yeah, the other I believe ability it has is also for melee, which is essentially Endless Crusade, which is the movement benefit. In order to move through cover that.
Oh,
it is.
just Overwatch half the life. That's painful. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's I can't see the Russians coming back. Elder's gonna lose the second base, and then it's literally gonna be a 1 versus 2 with economies at their tip-top shape, basically. Like facing late game Astra is scary, and then you have Sister that's also scaling pretty strong late game. So this is definitely going to be a win for Team Khazar. It's just how long are the Russians going to kind of stay in this? I assume until the second city. I think once the second city goes, they'll probably concede, I think. Got an engineer kill.
Engineer was a little bit overextended there, and he paid the price for it, but it doesn't matter much. He still has 3 in the back, which is more than plenty to support this army. He's got a 4th one coming, so I mean, his production is just rolling very, very smoothly. And I have to say, Khazar did a much better job with the production than, for example, the Chaos player did. But I looked at the Chaos player's income at one point; it was 70 ore a turn, which is good. However, he failed to make it count when it mattered most.
Yeah.
And once again, we haven't even had one Forge Fiend make it to the front line, just like you said. So.
Oh, injured Molar Fiend. So there's like 2 vehicles that are quite injured that they can kind of just kill here.
Easily pick off. possibly even 3 with that Hellbrute being almost half-life. So yeah, they're gonna take some heavy casualties here. You got 3 Exorcists ready to retaliate.
So we should see them try to focus on getting the morale back, utilizing the blue leadership units first.
I also wanted to add the fact that, like you mentioned, the placing an Eldar base forward is can be quite a dangerous move. And I want to add, especially because their composition lacks any tech priests, any mechs, any units that can repair bases. I believe the only way they could do that is through heroes. So if they were to build a Warpsmith and or a Farseer, that would give their vehicle that would give their units a lot more longevity, a lot more sustainability in back and forth battles where you're trading a lot. Yeah. And I think those heroes would benefit.
Well, the massacre, man.
Oh, this is rough. This is hard to look at, man. And once again, the Demon Russes just keep on coming.
Yep.
He's still up plus 60 ore a turn. So I mean, Khazar could literally
level 7 hero, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Then we got tanks going right in there.
This for
just ignore that Hellbrute and hit the city. Yeah, it's definitely game over. Like,
there's no coming back from this. The Russians can maybe just take this time to just kind of think about what they did wrong, where they went wrong, talk about any potential changes they want to make for the next game, any potential strategies that they want to maybe pull out of their playbook, and that's a good time to talk about something.
Yeah,
like
probably game 3 will probably be another day, although it depends. If both teams think they want to get the third game right away, they both have to agree on it. But I assume they would probably want to take a little break. I think
so. I think it's quite late for EU time.
Yeah, but this was kind of a textbook kind of game where I think the production just scaled so well for Khazar and Sister that it kind of finished them off. So there we go. Good game. Russians conceded. So we have a tied up series here, 1-1. The next game of this round 2 is gonna advance either team to the semifinals. So that should be interesting. Real question is, like you said, are the Russians going to learn from this? If we look at the graphs here, you should see a common factor here that you got Khazar being very high in the economy. Yurga wasn't too bad during the whole game. It did dip down a little bit, obviously, when he lost the base. Cernosar actually sort of the weaker player economically this game. I guess all that, I mean, he didn't, he missed the opportunity to get Chaos Heroes with all that influence. Military-wise, he was the lowest player. Research was pretty even overall, but Sister actually had the kind of research lead. Total star of the show for me was Khazar, but Sister also played very, very well. But
yeah, I mean, when you look at the damage dealt of their army, they dealt a total of 2,100 damage, whereas the Russian army only dealt around 1,300 damage. So they literally outdamaged them by almost double. So their army was just much more efficient in fighting that kind of a battle.
Yeah,
again,
so
manufacturing advantage.
Yeah. Anyways, this is gonna wrap it up for this game 2 of this series here. Again, like, comment, and thank you, Falana, for joining me. And if you guys are liking this sort of tournament structure and the casting for it, definitely hit that like button and comment. And also, if you're on Discord, let people know it's out there, so that if this pops off big enough that we can continue to do more of these, and also perhaps get the devs more involved with the balancing of the game as well to make it a better balanced game. Anyways, we'll see you guys next time. Again, thank you for everyone that's playing in the tournament, and so far we had some really good games.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for to everybody watching. And I want to say thank you. Have a good night and happy gaming.
Yeah.